Hello, everyone. Welcome to osquery office hours. The end of August, September coming up. Those of you who have children in America, it's the start of school season. Otherwise, just September. So welcome, everyone. Not sure. Probably first item is usually announcements. Probably the biggest announcement is that we cut a beta for 5.0. So it's pretty exciting. I don't think 5.00 is not going to go stable, which is not a surprise, but I think we're going to probably aim for 5.01 or 5.02. So probably talk about that. Not sure if there are any other announcements people want to raise. Otherwise, we can jump in. First section we normally have is sort of a questions, issues, PRs people want to discuss, like a broad topic for anyone who's dropping by. I see new people. I don't know if you've brought anything. Mike, you were starting to mention something before I told you to wait.
I was. Yeah, so just I guess a question about the file table. And if anybody knows, what I'm mainly after is trying to understand. So an issue came up in Slack about, hey, if I do a like query to get stuff from the file table, basically, and looking for recently modified files, like there's this cap of depth as far as how deep it'll go into the directory tree from whatever that point is, and whenever you put like the % signs for the like. So I guess I'm wondering, does anybody know, is that intentional? Because if not, maybe worth a look. I'm not sure if we should file a bug. If it is intentional, which it sounds like it might be, because it sounds like it might have a reasonable just like origin, right? As far as performance and stuff, then I was just going to propose that we add something to the docs on that table, just to clarify that there is a limit, whether or not it's configurable.
That syntax is not just for that table, though. And I know that syntax has been a source of confusion for a while for many people.
It's not a syntax thing, though.
Well, this is the syntax for what he thought should be recurse, and it has a limit to its recursion. So it might have been how it interprets the syntax.
Mike, did you happen to look at the source code for this at all?
I have not done that yet, no.
Okay. Because I'm curious if there's if there's a limit embedded in the source code, and I haven't gone digging yet.
I haven't either. I haven't dug in to see where to begin, but I was going to mainly apply my usefulness to the docs and digging there, but I'm happy to poke and see if I can find anything.
Part of where I'm going with that is I couldn't make a recommendation about what to document without knowing what is true.
Right. I think it's 3. If I had to guess, just from poking, like trying it, it looks like it might be a depth of 3 from wherever you put the % signs, but I have not. It's certainly not scientific.
I feel like we should be able to answer that question, but I don't quite know where it's hiding yet.
I recently gave a quick look, but I don't see any limit, especially not a limit of 3 or any value. I mean, the pattern we take and we expand it with a function that is common also for other tables that do have those kind of patterns to be expanded. We do not pass any kind of limit, so I feel like it is maybe some limit inside the expansion itself.
Yeah, this recursive glob limits it to 64. I pasted a link. I'm not sure if the code is doing what it says it's doing, though. Also, there's a max file size read too, so that would also be another reason why you have files in like your file system, but osquery may not show you because by default it only reads 50 megs. That is configurable though, the maximum file read size.
Could be something to rule out.
So I think there may be a couple of questions here. One of them is, what do people think the correct behavior is? Like, what do we want osquery to do? And then is there a bug? And like, is this a bug anyone wants to fix? And so on and so forth. One of the things I've mentioned in these various Slack conversations is that doing file system crawls can be very system intensive. And I think we sort of try and avoid that, but like we certainly give people plenty of rope to hose their systems if they want to. And you could certainly imagine constructing a CTE-based query to recurse through the entire file system, even if you can't do it in a glob. So, like, I'm not even sure what correct is.
I'm not even sure. So we can put if for any reason there is this low limit, we can definitely put a higher limit for like recursion. But I am not sure currently. So on Linux we use the glob function basically under the hood. I'm not entirely sure that's necessarily the fastest way to crawl the file system. But especially on Windows, we have a re-implementation of the glob function, which we know it's pretty slow. So, yeah, meaning if you're interested in crawling the whole file system, yeah, it is definitely bound to be slow, especially on Windows. If we are really interested in having it, we might consider to give a second look, especially on Windows, to improve performance. Because I mean, there is an issue open. I might misremember, but I think the difference from the emulated glob and something that simply takes a directory and loops its entries and etc. and matches those entries. It's like 10 pair, or 10 times slower, or something like that. But yeah.
I might suggest that this should probably just get opened as an issue that people can attempt to talk about, because I don't know that we can hit consensus here. And I'm honestly not even sure what to document, because it sounds like there isn't a limit of 3, but there might be some other limit, like there may be a query runtime limit or something that you're bumping up into. I just don't even know.
Got it. I will. I can take point on making the issue, and I'll just sort of like call it a bug, and then whether or not it is, we'll find out. Work. Cool. I'll leave some notes in the Slack thread too, and link back to it. Thank you all for your awesome context.
Next thing I know, someone asked us to talk about. PuffySid on Slack has a bunch of open PRs and requests review on them. I know a couple of them are pretty big, so I don't know if that's an easy thing or not, but if anyone wants to pick any of those up, there's a request out for that. Next item that someone has added is the CA bundle. Anyone here want to speak to that, or do you want me just to read what got written down?
So, well, simply for the CA bundle, recently we got questions on the TLS channel on if osquery and the underlying OpenSSL was using the system certificate bundle, or we were still shipping one, etc. And we are still shipping one, and it is used by default, but it's 2 years old right now. The bundle contains only root CAs, and it is from Mozilla. So as far as I know, it is by default used for every communication between osquery non-osquery on Fleet through config logger, or also in theory through AWS, etc. So maybe the question here right now is to understand. Well, should we first of all keep track of it and update it? I think so. And also, do we have any security problem due to this right now? We think maybe not, because websites and endpoints send a full chain of certificates, so our bundle might not even be used.
So this has come up in the past in a couple of ways. People have talked about trying to use wanting to use the system bundles for this, but we mostly can't do that without development work, since like Windows and Mac OS both use certificate stores, which can't just be passed through the underlying libraries. So this is, I think, part of why we always ship this bundle, and there's always this confusion. I see no reason we can't update this more frequently.
I wonder, does an OpenSSL use, so if you leave an empty TLS server flag, does an OpenSSL use automatically, like it should do, at least on Linux? Doesn't use the certificate bundle.
On Linux it might work, but I bet it does the wrong thing on Mac OS and Windows.
I see.
I mean, I haven't tested recently, but I don't think it can read those stores. I don't think there's any reason we shouldn't update this, either as a one-off or as a frequent GitHub action. Like if someone wants to write a scheduled GitHub action to open a PR every month, I think that would be fine. Anyone else have any thoughts about this? Okay, well, someone wants a good first issue, they're welcome to update the CA bundle. I'm just taking notes on this last item. Okay. Probably the other item that at least I wrote down is that I'm pretty sure people want an update on the state of 5.0. So what, we cut 5.00 last week and pretty quickly found a packaging problem in it. Right, Stefano, you patched something in the systemd paths.
Yeah.
Where are we on 501? Charvel, I know you had a code signing PR in flight.
Do you want me to go first on that? So we cannot quite upload a bare binary to GitHub because GitHub strips the permissions executable bit. So what GitHub suggests is you tar it up or zip it up and do it. So I have made that change. I'll push it out. That was the only minor thing on that. The other thing is notarizing. we cannot notarize a bare binary. So it has to be a ditto-based zip bundle according to the Apple Docs, PKG app bundle, or one of those DMGs.
My experience is you can upload any zip bundle.
Yes, so zip works, tar doesn't.
So maybe that means we should just zip it.
Yeah.
And then we can use the same zip bundle for GitHub and Apple.
Yeah, that works. And when you download from GitHub, GitHub automatically zips the zip, so there'll be a double zip, but that's, yeah.
That's our reality.
Cool, then I'll change the tar to the zip bundle.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth thinking too hard. You should do whatever seems easy.
Perfect.
And
relatedly, we also had a plist with pointing to the old path that got fixed as well. I've done, I think, most of the macOS testing, and it seems okay. I don't know if anyone else found anything, but people deploy it in different ways, with different MDMs, different ways. So, yeah, I think I'm on the lookout for any issues and hunt them down and fix them as quickly as I can.
I'm just skimming over the 5.01 milestone that I have here. And the only thing that I think is actionable in this list is the thing you're working on about the bare osquery D. So maybe as soon as you finish that, we'll just cut a 501 and get test packages out to people again.
Sounds good. I'll change it up right after this meeting and push that update out.
Okay. Has anyone else tested 500? I have not. That's not totally true. I run out on my machine at this point. But I haven't pushed it very far in Collide World yet.
Are the 5.0 packages that are on the release tag, are they working? I mean, I know that several fixes went in immediately after.
They predate those fixes.
Those are fixes for Linux, though, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, there was a system D.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can.
Well, I did.
We can encourage our macOS customers to test anyway, at least in, not in production, but.
So it sounds like we're going to cut a 501 today or early tomorrow. Probably as soon as Charvel finishes what he's working on, I'll cut a new tag for us.
Does that mean that we're going to merge this PR from Teddy, change the column on the timetable? No?
I don't think that PR is ready to merge.
Should I move it to 5.1?
Don't bother. I'll when I cut a tag, I'll shuffle things around in here. Like I may just make a 5002 or something. I'm kind of. I don't think I want to hold a stable 5.0 for that at this point, especially given that Teddy may not have time to come back to it.
Yeah, I don't either. I wanted to get a 5.0 release blessed, so that's the goal I'm working on still with you. And 5.02 gives me heartburn because that means we're not getting it to release.
I mean, the thing is all we can do is cut a 501 and see what else people turn up in packaging, right? Like we cut a 5.0 and immediately we found bugs in the P lists and system D things. So there's a lot of changes here, and I have no idea if 501 will prove stable on the packaging side until people will test it. So I think what I'm implying here is I don't think I want to block a stable 5.0 release on the local time changes. Maybe we can take a simpler version of that and just hide the column or something, or drop the column without doing the deeper reworking, because that gets the breaking change in sooner. Or maybe I'll try and look at it this week. But I feel like it's better to sort of get things in front of people to test sooner than to sort of delay. I don't know.
Yeah, that's how we get 5.0 from pre-release to release. Is we give people some confidence that we've done testing. So they'll do it for us too, and then we can move ahead, right?
Yeah. Hello, Xander. Welcome. Another new face. We normally start office hours with time for people to raise any questions. They didn't put them in the agenda, so I'll say welcome. And if you've got anything you want to ask about.
I do. I didn't have a chance to add it to the agenda. That's true.
That's okay.
And I'm also late. But
actually, hold up just a second. Mike, do we have anything else on the 500 stuff? Sorry, Xander.
No, I think you can go ahead.
Okay, all yours, Xander.
I don't know if you've had a chance to discuss this or not, but I posted a question in the osquery Slack about the file table. And I wanted to, have you talked about it? Or you want me to bring it up?
I was writing up the issue right now.
All right, cool. I'll weigh in on that issue. Just let you know kind of what I saw. And so, yeah, that's it. Happy you talked about it already. Sorry I missed it.
No problem. Good to see you.
I see someone is rapidly typing another agenda item. Wonderful.
It's just to track it. Socket events table depends on OpenBSM, and OpenBSM has been deprecated in Big Sur. And there have been chatter that it might not exist in Monterey. On Apple developer forums, people have been kind of asking official Apple people what's going to happen. And the answer is like, we don't know if OpenBSM is going to be there as a library or not. The developer release notes for beta 6 doesn't mention anything, and I haven't had a chance to download it and play around because my priority is 5.0, but I just wanted a place to track it, see if anyone has anything to say about it, and maybe come back at it and figure out a way forward.
I assume the way forward is to use the security frameworks.
Yep, network extensions, I think they're called. No.
They keep renaming everything.
Well, so there's endpoint security extensions for some of the things that OpenBSM used to do, the file and process events, and network extensions for the like DNS events.
Yeah, they were all kernel extensions before, so now we're extending different things.
User space, yep.
Do we need permissions or provisioning profile bits that we don't have if it's...
We need to add things to the provisioning profile, but we don't need any new entitlements in Apple. So that's the upside.
We already have them. You got us for them when you click those buttons. So
we can always regenerate provisioning profiles. That's pretty easy. And also, I mean, we can kind of do that anytime. I don't think we need to wait on it. So if we think we're going to end up needing to write that code.
I mean, the other thing I'll say is that all of the tools for the audit framework are still in Monterey, like audit and audit reduce. But Apple is clear that extensions are the way forward for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we're about half an hour short. I got time if people have other things they want to talk about. Otherwise, folks are welcome to have time back. I don't know if Fleet's got anything they're planning on. Eric, I don't know if you've got anything.
Just here to see everybody's pretty faces.
Kind of mostly the usual crowd. Well, I don't know. That's not fair for me. There are definitely some people not part of the usual crowd. Any exciting things people are working on in osquery land? Okay.
Just something cool I heard about is the arm support paying off. I was talking to someone who was super excited about that.
The graviton, whatever. The Arch 64.
That sounds familiar. I'm but a baby, Seth. So
the only, as far as I know, really the only shipping platform that uses that is AWS, which usually is the code name Graviton, whatever it is.
I think that was the context was for the cloud. Wanted to say it's pretty cool.
Yeah, what have you seen that's paid off?
Well, this was just a casual conversation where it came up. I just I hadn't heard much about folks using the ARM support, and when it did come up, it was neat. So just wanted to let you know there's at least one user out there who's really excited about it.
So I don't think I can publicly name the people, but the ARM 64 support was partly sponsored by Amazon at request of some of their customers, including one very large customer.
Awesome.
So there's one really large customer that uses the ARM 64 support, and at least one small customer who helped out a bunch with the initial porting work. I just don't know what I can say and not say. So it's a little filed off, sorry. But yeah, there's definitely people out there using it. Did someone raise like a hand in this? It's all very casual, so.
I think that was Xander.
Might have been accidental.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know how much I can say or not, but it might be a nice thing for us. So
I don't know who you are.
Well, there you go. That makes it easy.
When you say it would be a nice thing for you, do you mean the ARM 64 or the M1 support?
The ARM stuff.
Okay. Well, I'm happy that we have provided it. Anonymous benefactors.
Assuming you're who you, well, never mind. I won't say anything about OSINT opportunities, but I can see why that would be nice for you.
Any other things people want to chat about?
Well, someone did ask about upcoming osquery work we're excited about, and we did throw a bunch of stuff in the issues about Apple Silicon and updating our libraries. So there's a milestone for that and a tentative plan to do it in Q4. So
that is exciting.
Hopefully we do get to do that.
I started looking at CI for that too. I started trying to play with Cirrus CI, mostly because one of the Cirrus people popped up and said, like, try us. I haven't gotten very far yet. But if anyone is excited to look at CI systems with me,
this could be the thing that we need to spend the osquery budget on. I think we have that small pool of money that could be used for something.
There's some things maybe that we could think about if we wanted to talk about that. So our osquery hosts a package repository, which I really need to file some bills for because that costs me like $2,000 a month right now. I keep trying.
We only have
know.
Like 1 month's worth of,
I know. I think one of probably the big questions about Silicon M1 machines is, what do we want to do for CI? So I want to ask this question, and I don't even it's not a well-formed question yet. So the cloud vendors can generally rent us Silicon M1 machines on a 24-hour basis, right? You can't have less. And we can buy an M1 machine or any of our employers might buy an M1 machine for similar reasons. But I'm not quite sure how we would want to connect a CI system into a non-ephemeral piece of hardware, right? At least some of how we sort of think about supply chain security is we have ephemeral build machines, which are all just, floating in the GitHub umbrella. But if we start talking about dedicated machines for that, that starts being a lot less ephemeral. So something like GitHub Actions doesn't have a good answer for that. I don't know if Cirrus does. Cirrus may have a better answer for securely running builds and CI on dedicated hardware. I'm
How much money do we need to do it right, Seth?
Do what right?
I mean, so the problem is that M1 virtual machines are hard to come by in any sort of like ephemeral sense, right? So as we look at talking about M1 support and other things, the concern isn't necessarily throwing money at the problem to get hardware. It's that after we have that hardware, that is a single machine running a single operating system, and every time we do a run, there will be potentially traces left over from previous builds. So then we're talking about like doing hypervisors on the M1, and there isn't great support for that in a pipeline to like spin up Vagrant or other things. I don't even think Amazon has M1 support for their, ridiculously priced Max on Demand, which is like, minimum 24 hours. So every time there's a build kickoff, we're paying whatever a day's usage is for M1. And then, however often we kick off a build, it's like $1,500 a year to rent a Mac from Amazon minimum. So it's just kind of trying to figure out a way to do that in a way that is reproducible, that doesn't leave traces behind. And that's really hard on M1 machines right now.
Yeah, what Eric said. It
is a bad DevOps problem, is the short answer. The money isn't really the issue; it's the technical solutions.
Yeah, I spent a fair bit of time looking at this on the ARM64 platform because that has something of the same problem, but it's a little bit more tractable there right now. And the biggest issue is really that we run our builds in CI through GitHub Actions right now. And GitHub Actions fundamentally does not have security guarantees that we would need. So other CI systems might, but that's still an open question. And it's all about, so if you have this piece of hardware, how do you reset the state? So, if there's a DevOps problem, right? Like, and it's not my full-time job. So I can't sink a month into building it.
We'll put together some ideas as we update the libraries to support this. So the first step is being able to support it, and the second step is being able to call it a supported platform, right? Which means the CI. But it's probably going to require some sort of sponsoring for the CI cost until a big platform like GitHub Actions can support it in the same way that we have our other platforms.
I don't even know. So a thing that I don't know is if something like GitLab or Cirrus CI, if one of those other CI solutions, if they had a good answer for running open source publicly submitted jobs against bring your own hardware, then it would be relatively inexpensive to maintain CI for it. I just don't know that they have that answer, right? Like GitHub is very clear that they do not think self-hosted runners are suitable for our use case. And having looked at the code, I agree with them. Other platforms may be better, right? And if some platform says, oh, you can bring your own runner, we have implemented enough, virtualization and gating, we think this is secure, and we agree with them, then we're looking at a single cost M1, right? That's a very understandable cost. So I'm not too worried. I just don't know if there's anyone that does that. And then if there is, we have to port our builds to that platform from GitHub. So there's sort of evaluation and security considerations. Then if we pick somewhere, we have to port to it.
It'll be an ongoing conversation for sure. Yeah.
I can dig into the GitLab question specifically, if that would be helpful. I guess and just to make sure I got it, and I'll revisit this recording, but we want to make sure, is there a solution for CI on GitLab that will let you bring your own hardware, do a self-hosted build server?
Okay. Hold on. Let's see. So all of the major CI vendors, well, most of the major CI vendors, GitLab included, do have a bring your own solution. GitHub's specifically disavows security. So they're like, bring your own is only suitable if you are tightly controlling all of the builds. GitHub is very clear. They have no security isolation between runs. There's no concept of ephemerality or machine resetting state. I have seen blog posts, but have not analyzed the code, with the assertion that, for example, GitLab's agent is more able to handle that. To get a little bit deeper into the weeds, some of this is because if you imagined a CI system that was primarily based in virtual containers, which they all are in some ways, you could imagine something where a runner would say, hey, give me a job, would get the job. It would then say, okay, let me spawn a VM and I'll run the job inside that VM, right? You can imagine that flow. GitHub's doesn't do that. GitHub's has this much weirder sprawling, like some things just run in runner context without being forced into a VM and some things don't. So a GitHub job, a GitHub action basically pollutes the state of the local machine. And in theory, a way to work around that is to only run a job once on a machine and then get a new clean machine. But GitHub doesn't support that for self-hosted runners. That's what they do for their hosted runners, but not for things we would host. So that's the chicken and egg of GitHub. When I looked at this like 6 months ago, the other platforms generally had better. Oh, you want to do this in ephemeral machines? Sure. Like here's the knob. So there may be better options there, but there's work. And then aside from that, there's this other issue where like we can't get ephemeral M1 machines. Like you just can't right now. So there's a question of do we run things inside an M1 virtual machine? Like those exist? Are they good enough? Do we try and reset state? Are there any vendors that are going to do this?
So I have sort of a different option, which was something I am putting this out there because I have done exactly zero exploration into this. But I stumbled across something a couple of days ago when I was trying to use Conda on M1. And the Conda forged, I don't know how many folks are familiar with Conda or Anaconda. It's a Python package manager, essentially. And they do cross-compilation, where they're using Clang and a couple of other things on macOS Intel machines and compiling to the ARM64 target. And that's mostly working out for them. I haven't dived into how they're doing that. I haven't looked at any of the code. I have zero idea if that's any possibility. But there are people out there who are doing cross-compilation for ARM targets. And so I don't know if that's a possibility at all. Again, that's probably going to depend a lot on like what we're using for compiling and what our upstream libraries look like and things like that. But it may be a possibility.
I think Stefano had comments about this a couple meetings ago.
Yeah, so I do know how, I don't know. So I also did a test, and well, a very simple test, like a hello world binary compiled on Intel, and we compiled as only ARM. So it was in the end an ARM binary on Intel. Moved it on a M1 machine. It worked. Obviously, as you say, it is not osquery. I don't necessarily. I mean, if Apple did the right thing and if all the headers are correct, etc., there shouldn't be any issue. It's mostly similar to what we are doing actually with Linux and our special toolchain that is able to have osquery run on a higher range of Linux. The base idea is that we are creating a sysroot with headers and libraries that are from another this is not another architecture, but just an older version of Linux. And it is using those to compile and use the symbols and definitions that are there. So the missing step is then the compiler, that if you have to compile to another architecture, the compiler has to be able to compile to another architecture. And that we have tested it and it works. So in theory, it should work. Again, I cannot guarantee because I haven't done it on osquery. There might be some changes to be done, etc., etc.
I feel like there are two big questions that will come up. One is it fast enough? And then two is, do we need to test on dedicated hardware?
What you mean? So fast enough compiling from Intel to ARM, you mean? Okay. And test on dedicated hardware, test what exactly the output?
Are we comfortable enough not having CI on dedicated M1 machines and just trusting that the cross compilation is good enough?
Yeah. So, well, I think the compilation itself, I don't think it is, well, the compilation itself on Intel will cause like output issues. Like the output should be the same coming if you compile it on Intel or if you compile it on our machine. But yes, we are missing any. I mean, this is a development issue more than how we compile it. And so yes, we wouldn't be able to test our changes if not locally.
I feel like the cross compilation might be fine, but some library might be linked weirdly. Like who knows?
I see. Yeah, maybe what I'm just saying is that there wouldn't be like the output from the compiler on the Intel machine and the output from the compiler on the ARM64 machine should be the same. So if there is an issue on one, there will be on the other. But yes, mostly the issue is that if we don't have a CI that runs on an M1 machine, we cannot test the binary there. Yes.
Yeah, and I mentioned fast enough because when we talked about Arch64, our conclusion was that cross compilation was possible through QEMU, but was going to be way too slow.
Yeah.
Well, that was emulated. That wasn't cross compilation. Excuse me, different beast.
Yeah. The compiler still runs on the native hardware. So yeah. No, there shouldn't be any difference in speed. Or well, some slight difference because it is output in different instructions, but yeah.
Okay. Anything else people want to chat about? Okay, well, we can call it. Enjoy 15 minutes back. Nice to see everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Good conversation.